Hello everyone, this is a tutorial for setting up a layout and printing to PDF out of Rhino. One of the first things I do when I'm setting up geometry to print is I group objects so that they're easier to move around. If they're not Boolean union together already, it might be a good idea to group things. So to do that, if you select the objects that you'd like to group and then type group and then hit enter, it just groups all of those pieces together so that I can move them easily with the gumball or by typing move and moving that way. If you'd like to ungroup something, the command is ungroup. So you type ungroup and then hit enter, and it separates those pieces into distinct parts again. So I'm going to type group. So once you have all of your objects grouped or Boolean union together, it makes it easier to move them around. I would start first in a general perspective view. So if you right click and hit set view perspective, it'll kind of get things in a perspective, and then you can kind of pan around with your rotate around by right clicking. Lay things out loosely, like to fit your screen in a grid. I like doing maybe like a bird's eye view that kind of shows off the models I've created nicely. So get that kind of zoomed in, and then using the gumball or move, just sort of arrange things in a loose grid. Doesn't have to be perfectly gridded. I've set my scroll wheel to be pan, but you can pan up at the top if yours is not set the same way. So once you get things kind of set loosely in a grid that fits your screen, that looks pretty good there. The next thing that you want to do is sort of save that view. It's helpful to save the view so later when we're setting up a layout we can just find that quickly. It's also nice to save views so that if you do go back in and model things or make edits, you can find that view that you used previously. So to save a view, I'm going to right click on perspective and go down to set view and then show named views panel. So click that. I already have it open, so if I click that, it's going to close it. If yours is open, don't click this. If it's not open yet, just click that. And then over here on this side, there's just probably, it defaults to there not being anything, but if you want to create a new view, you hit the plus sign, and then it's asking for you to name it, so pick a name and then hit apply, and then that view will pop up over here. I've already done this, so here's the view that I set up previously. If you double click on any of these, it automatically snaps to that view that you've created previously, which is really helpful again if you move something around or maybe you make some modifications to your models. You can always go back and find that by double clicking. The next thing that you want to do is kind of get out of, I like modeling in this shaded Rhino view, but for presentations it's a little hard to read the geometry and see what's going when I print. So I'm gonna use a different setting. So again, if you go to right click up at the top, and then we go down to pen setting, and it might not default to this when you first use pen setting. So let's go and modify how this looks. So if you right click and you go to display options, it pulls up display options or modes for all of the different standard settings, and I want to click on pen, and I want to customize the pen to fit kind of more of how I'd like to present my work. I'm going to use the background as a solid color. Typically Rhino defaults to a weird textured image file. I think I just want to see an all solid white background. Hit apply, and then the other settings should be fine as defaults. The one thing you want to turn on under visibility are the curves, edges, and these other selections. Hidden lines is one that actually shows dashed lines for geometry that's behind, which could be useful in previous or in future exercises, or maybe in some previous exercises you use the hidden lines. For this, I just want to use curves, edges, silhouettes, creases, seams, and intersections. The rest of these defaults are okay. So I close out of that, and then my view should look something like this. The next thing we want to do is create a layout to print. So if you right-click on Layouts, double-click on Layouts, and then right-click on in this case it says Page 3, and you can click New Layout. It's asking you to give it a name. I think Page 4 is fine. If you want to name something more specific for this, that's great also. I want to set my page size to 11 by 17 because that's what I'm printing. Landscape in this case, and then 11 by 17, and then hit apply, and it opens a new page. It's snapped to what looks like a plan view, which I don't want. I want to go back to my my perspective view. So if you double click inside, notice that it changed to be white. If I double click outside, I'm just in sort of the paper space or layout space. If I double click inside, I'm now in sort of what I think of as model space, and then I right click up at the top, I go set view, and if you're working in PC, you should see your named view down at the bottom here. If you're working on Mac, you click the named views panel and then find that view again. If you are working on PC, I should say your tabs are probably down at the bottom. It might look slightly different than Rhino for Mac. So PC, look for those tabs down here. So if I double click outside, now again I'm back in paper space or layout space, and notice here this still looks like sort of that wireframe view. So I want to go back and I want to set this to be the pen setting that I used previously. So if I double click inside here, right click, and go down to pen. Now the settings that I messed with or tweaked earlier should hold, because when you update the pen settings, it updates all of the pen settings globally in the file. So if this looks nice to you, you could print. I might double click inside and zoom in just a little bit, and then I might pan and kind of center things just so that I can see my geometry a little bit better. The next thing, once you've got that set up nicely on the layout, is to print. So you can print by clicking the little print, or you can type print. I'm just going to click the little printer at the top. And so it's a little different on PC versus Mac. On PC, you want to find the printer that is Microsoft Print to PDF or Adobe PDF, whichever comes up for you, but you want to find the printer itself. On Mac, we're going to print down here. The one thing you want to make sure that is set is that you're using like an 11 by 17 paper size. 11 by 17, it might say tabloid, that's fine. Vector or raster output, in this case raster output's fine. If you wanted to be able to keep those vectors, you could set that there. Output color, print color should be fine. Black and white will just ensure that it's black and white. And then down at the bottom, I'm going to save as PDF. Again, if you're working in PC, you just hit print and it'll print it to PDF. So I'm going to save it as PDF. It asks me what I want to call it. I'm going to just use my last name and the exercise number, and then it asks you where you want to save it. For now, I'm just going to save it on my desktop. You should probably be a little more organized than that. Hit save, and then it processes the PDF. You might get the window wheel, and then what you want to do is just find that PDF where you saved it, open it, and double check it looks like it should. Thank you. This has been a quick tutorial in setting up a layout and printing to PDF out of Rhino.